Hi you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad. This is the Firefighter's Financial Toolbox. Today we're going to review my total portfolio. Now for security reasons, I've blacked out the numbers, you guys, because I don't feel that really adds to it. You guys know I've been completely transparent on my dividend portfolio, which is part of this, my individual dividend stocks. But we're going to talk about some of the things that I have that I use to keep track of that. And the easiest way that I've been able to find is using Google Sheets, you guys. So here is one of my Google Sheets, and these numbers were kind of updated this morning. And it keeps track of my total portfolio. Now, when you're first starting out, you may very well only have one or maybe two accounts. Maybe you have a 401k, maybe you have a Roth IRA, and that's all you have. And you know what? That's easy to keep track of. But as you'll see, between my wife and I, we actually have 15 accounts that I keep track of. Now, I couldn't remember all these unless I had them written down, you guys, because there's just too many there. So I've got it broken down into three different sections. I have my taxable account, my tax deferred, and my tax free, or what I call my different buckets of money that I'm going to spend down in retirement. Taxable is the accounts that I get taxed on every year, you guys. These are some, now, if they're still around, they'll be retirement funds, but I consider them non-retirement funds because if I need money out of it, I can take them. That's everything from online savings to some treasury bonds to my brokerage accounts. And my tax deferred, that's my money that I got a little savings on when it went into the account, right? I got a little tax savings. It's growing tax deferred, but remember when I take it out, it's going to be ordinary income. And then my tax-free bucket is my Roth assets and my PEP, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So first we're going to talk about my tax-deferred bucket. Now we've talked about this in the past, you guys. Instead of a 401k, because I work for a governmental agency, I have what's called a 457B plan, which is sort of like a government 401k. It's got some different rules, but pretty much it acts just like a 401k. And I have that through Voya. You guys may have seen the video I made recently about the plans that the funds I use in that account. I also have what's called an IAP. It's basically another 401k that's part of my pension. That is also through Voya, but that is run by the state of Oregon, and so I don't get to pick what it is. Basically, it's a target date fund that money, 6% of my income goes to in each year, and it grows. The third one here is a 401A. Most people don't know what those are, and that's through Nationwide. A 401 and a 457 plan, if my employer was to make a match, it would count against my contribution limits. So my employer does have a match, and he puts that money into a 401A account, which is a separate account that only he puts money into, and then it grows much like a 401k. But that also is all going to be tax deferred. Okay, the next one you see is my wife's rollover IRA at Vanguard. She had a 401k with the company for a number of years, and when she left that company, actually got downsized from that company, we rolled that over to Vanguard. She also has a current 401k with her new employer, and that's through Spectrum Services. And then she does have a lump sum pension payout from her old employer. So that is obviously, that's our biggest bucket, you guys, by far. The second biggest bucket we have is the tax-free bucket, and I'm glad because I'm trying to add to that. First thing is my Vanguard Roth IRA, which I've had for about 10 years. My wife also has a Roth Vanguard IRA that she's had for the same amount of time. I do have a small second Roth with M1 Finance where I have a couple dividend stocks in, but that one is very small. The last thing you see listed here, you guys, is the PEP, and PEP stands for Post-Employment Health Plan. This is kind of like an HSA in that my employer actually puts money into it, but I'm also allowed to sell vacation once a year into that, and that's going to go towards healthcare costs in retirement. And if I use it for healthcare expenses, then it's tax-free money. So I count that in my tax-free bucket. And the last bucket is my taxable bucket. Now, you can see that I have my online savings at Ally. I do have a one-year CD that's about to expire at the end of this month. And you see, look at that rate there, 2.55%. You guys, that was nice. Oh, looking at Ally, I haven't updated it. Ally is actually at 1.10% now. In my Wealthfront account, I actually have a zero balance in because when it dropped to 0.35, I transferred that money to Ally, you guys. I-bonds are Treasury Direct inflationary bonds that I have. I keep that as a second tier to my emergency fund. Thing about I-bonds is they're not taxed until you cash them out, but you do have to keep them for 1 year before you can break them. And you have to keep them for 5 years. Otherwise, you're going to lose 90 days of interest. So I put those in and they just keep growing. I then have my Vanguard Brokerage account, which is mostly made up of ETFs, although I do have 4 individual stocks. When I started that account, you guys, I was only doing ETFs and index funds. When I started doing some investing into individual dividend stocks, at that time it was still $7 per trade at Vanguard. So I turned around and opened a brokerage at Ally because they were, I believe, $3.95 a trade. Now both of these have gone to zero because with all the brokerage houses going to no cost trades, they both have come around to that. I also have a small brokerage account with M1 Finance, and you guys have seen the brokerage amounts for the individual stocks in my monthly dividend stock updates. But if we come down here and we look at the actual breakdown of my account, you see that in taxable I have 8.91%. In my tax deferred bucket or account, I have 73.19%. And then in the tax-free bucket, I have 17.9, so almost 18%. One thing in my wife's 401k here, I do have it in the tax-deferred list. She is currently making all of her contributions into a Roth 401k. But because it's intermixed with some traditional funds, i.e. or employers' contributions, as well as when she first got into it, she was making some traditional contributions as well. So I still have it listed on there because breaking it down, part of the account and part of the account doesn't make sense for my mental accounting. But you can see there's 15 separate accounts that I'm keeping track of here, you guys. The portfolio is growing large. It's low 7 figures right now, which I'm very proud of, but this has been a long time coming, you guys. In some cases, the 457 I've had since I started in the fire service nearly 20 years ago. So as well as the IAP, which is just a couple of years behind that, and the 401A. And my wife's rollover was about 20 years of 401k contributions. So this isn't something that happened overnight, you guys. Remember, I'm a buy and hold long-term investor, and that is the way I personally feel is the best way to build your wealth. You guys, Google Sheets is a great, easy way to do it. Going on YouTube, I've been able to find a lot of really handy things to make it work and make it colorful. You can make charts. If we go back here and we open up, for example, my dividend stock breakdown, you see that you can add in cool things like your little spark line that shows, now we're going to have to update, little spark line that shows how it's been doing over the year. You can have it update the price changes of the day, and it'll update. I have it so if it's negative, it turns red. If it's positive, it turns green. And then my average share price versus the price. If it's below, it turns red. So some pretty cool little tricks to do that aren't really too hard to figure out if you play around with it. I copied this particular one from Gen X Dividend Investor. He's got 2 really good videos on how to make a very, very efficient dividend stock tracking portfolio. But anyway, I just want to take a second and talk about the fact that when you get a larger portfolio, it becomes a lot harder to keep track of. And you guys, a simple, free way to do it is with Google Sheets. And just having a few different things that you update, and I don't know, update this super regular, maybe once a month. I literally did it this morning because I wanted to see after the downturn we had back in March how I was doing. I'm not quite back up to 100% whole, but I'm pretty close. So that just shows you how quick the turnaround was this time. If you want to learn how to do this, as I said, check out those 2 videos from Gen X Dividend Investor. This one here I made just on my own. You can add charts to it. You can add all you want. You see my chart that I had to add that in after the fact for you guys, because when I changed the numbers here to X's because I didn't want to show the values, it screwed up the chart, so I just took it off. I'll put that right back in. But anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did and you're enjoying the thing, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. Turn it blue. You guys, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. You join part of the community. You ring the bell. You get notified every time I make a video. Our community continues to grow, and we learn together. I learn from you guys as much as you learn from me. Remember, I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not a financial advisor. I just am a guy who's passionate about doing these things and like to try to share some of the stuff that I've learned over the years with all of you. So I hope you got something out of it. If you did, come on back.